go here. Okay, let's start again. I'm sorry about that. So let's make a formal introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, Danny. My name is Claudio, and this is my good friend Christian from Chile. And I'm calling you from Washington DC, from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Danny accepted our invitation show. As I was saying, Danny, and feel free to elaborate how the pandemic, is affecting your life, your inability to work and do tours and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
So, because to give you the reflection of last 2 years of the pandemic and this all sickness in this world and all the difficult. In fact, maybe you know that I'm still over almost 50 years now. I'm working with some pause and interruption. I'm working with Amon Düül. So that means, for example, 2 years ago, we played in Scandinavia on a festival. We played in London. And we make a lot of work in studio, We worked as a group and for our own stuff. And this all has now, because of this pandemic, it has stopped. So what I miss really is, and what I hope is going to be a change, and not only me, also John Weinzierl and Renate from Amon Düül, all those people, Mascara. And we are still waiting for the possibilities work as usual, So the live gigs, we want to do next year live gigs in Great Britain. And then so it's like everywhere. It's a little bit stuck, The creativity for our own work is of course possible. Do it at home, do some recordings, or maybe talk to each other. But the real life experience, this is a big pause, and it needs a change, because first it's an economical, it's a financial problem, you can imagine, of course. So me, for my personal thing, is that I'm just prepared since 5-6 years. I'm just doing my work and reflection to Popol Vuh, to Amon Düül, or also to the work of Gila was conified. Also died in the year of 2000. He died tragically in jail, but it's a different story. So I'm still working on that compositions, on these reflections on my own. And now I had a pause exactly 1 year ago because of a very, very heavy accident I got with my bike. Somebody, make an accident. It was not my fault. And I had a very, very bad broken leg, very broken here, in my shoulder. And so I was really on the chair, wheeling chair, you know what I mean? The Rollstuhl, So I couldn't work and I was very sick. And this was the one problem, the other, because of Corona. But the outlook now, it's okay. For example, last year I did the work with a guy from Switzerland. I did it over the, internet. He sent me the basic track, and I put down all the guitars, and he's a guy who is in contact. Maybe you know that group from the past, Great Britain band called Quintessence. Maybe, excuse me, what's her name? Christoph, no, what's the name? Who's a fan of who's next to you? I forgot his name. What's his name?
Christian.
Christian.
Yeah.
Christian. Hi, Christian, excuse me. So, wait, I have to call Claudia because it's something here in the middle. I can't see you. Claudia, get in. Cut. komm mal, hier ist the meeting, das kriege ich nicht weg, da kann ich ihn nicht sehen. Das war, ja, aber, excuse me. So, now it's okay. Hi, Christian. Hi, Christian.
Yeah. Well, first,
okay.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm glad you are well alive after the accident and
No problem. Oh no, because of my accident. But I'm still now, and I'm happy about that. I can work with my hands, and with my feet because it was really heavy. I broke here, everything, and my leg was broken because somebody, just me down on the bike.
I understand. And if we go, well, as I said before, I'm glad you are alive, that you're getting better, that
Yeah,
go to rehab,
it was
and
really
play, hopefully play good music toward the end of the year. Let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family?
So in this fact,
yeah, where you
Claudio, this is very important. Yeah. So this is really important. It's very easy for you. Yeah. So my father was in Berlin, was famous. That's funny stories I can tell you. Yeah. He was in Berlin. His big time was in the end of the like 48 until 62. Yeah. He was, if you want, a famous blues singer. He was, for some people, he was either this guy who made the blues feeling and the jazz feeling. So I'm grown up, but to this thing, you please look in the internet, you find, because of his film, you find Obi Fichelscher, T-O-B-Y, Toby, like Tobias.
Right?
Yeah, Toby Fichelscher. You can go and so you see, because they made a film about his work. They made it really, and you can see me playing it. I was 7. You can see me playing drums.
Yeah, we need to check it out.
You can check it out. You see the pictures. Yeah. From in those days, 70s, he was a famous photographer. Will McBride, he has a good name as a photographer, and he was the reason, at least he gave me the possibility to start it when I was 17, to start because somebody, is a nice story. I was in school in summer, 16, 17. So, and we had when you have break, or you meet your friends, so with other school. So, and one of those guys, we had a meeting place, where the music box was. And in those days, music box was in Germany maybe for international hits, but not for German, English speech, or rock and roll, whatever you want. There was nothing else, but one single came out, 69. It was Amon Düül with Archangel Thunderbirds. So, and this guy, he said to me, no lie, he said to me, in those days I had a group and played, school band and so. And this guy said, oh, I have to show you a very good German band. And in those days, I was like, who's good in Germany? And he put it down, and I listened to this. And I said, by God, it's no lie. I said, this is the best German group. Beside Ken, there were 2 bands. I got a lot of respect in those days. This was Ken and Amon Düül. So, and I said, my friend, in 2 years, I'm playing with the best band on stage. And he said, like, hey, come on, baby. And it was true. 72, in the harvest of 72, I went into the band and had a job. And my first gig was in Paris, in the Olympia,
My God. Well,
and you can see it. You can see it if you link to Amon Düül, you can see me when I'm playing drums. I was 17,
Yeah, good
So
for
there's
you.
a
And
nice story to that.
yeah, that's
And
that's
Popol Vuh is a completely different story.
yeah,
But
yeah,
maybe could I tell it?
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
yeah. But
So
yeah, you will tell the story when you go to work.
okay, I give you
That's
that.
a beautiful
I
story,
give
man.
you. Okay, listen. So I started in Munich because somebody made a film. It's a different thing. He made a film about a young man, who was challenged, and so it had nothing to do with the band. So it was my personal thing, and he was a speaker. He was a quite famous director in Germany those days, 1970 in the summer. He said, okay, and this was one of the things. So he was putting down a camera on every situation, He made a film about me, how I, was, getting through this scene, getting through this, and the commune #1 in those days, Heiner Lamgans, Uschi Obermeier, and those guys, I met that for, the first time in Munich, and this was, so I was on a good way. And my mother asked, it was summer in the holidays, and my mother said, yeah, when you going back to school? And I said, Mama, I don't come back. I'm gonna stay and make my music. I'm gonna get professional. And she was out of her mind, how I can throw this school. And so I said, no, Mama, I got a big chance, It was like that. So my first band was Samiti. So that was surrounded. It was people from Amon Düül, they had a band called Samiti, and we made, so I was a drummer in that band in the harvest, October 70. So I made about 1.5 years. I made quite successful. We played everywhere in Germany, on festivals. I met a lot of people, a lot of, German, like Edgar Fröse, Tangerine Dream, Plushot. I mean, what you want, you can say all those guys who was touring in those days. Even this guy you interviewed, I don't know who was it, not only from Tangerine Dream, another guy, also Kraftwerk and so. I met a lot of people those days. They toured everywhere. So, and on one day, because they had a big name those days in Germany, and I had a huge house, Amon Düül is huge, really. I don't know, 50 rooms, So anyway, a big guy, so it was something. And we had, it was a different level. So, and once they heard me in a concert, Amon Düül people, guys, like coach, and they visit us. This band, some meeting, they had a house, a farmhouse, nice little house, and they visit us. And they asked me if I would enjoy them to come with them and have a look, And remember, as I told you, it's summer. I told this guy, 2 years before it was, I said, once I'm gonna play in that band. So they invited me to come, I said nothing because I had a job. I had a steady job, in the other bands, they had gigs, everything, So I said, okay, I'll go there for some days. I directly go to this house, was so impressed. All that nice people, Renate, Feig, everybody was nice. John, I asked this guy there, the room, in the basket where all the music instruments was, and I asked, because they had another drummer, Peter Leopold.
Yeah.
No lie. And I asked him if I could, because I had no drum kit, and Mayan can play drums on that. And all the guys, Peter Leopold was not there, the drummer, not there. And they said, yeah, you can play on that. So I start to play, I give it all, So they were quite impressed. No lie, after some, the door went open a guy with a Winchester came in and off my drum.
Oh man, the Winchester! Wow, wow.
Leopold, everybody fighted and really laughed. But it was not that funny for me. I was really scared. So, but half a year later, we had 2 drums on stage, and we did over 2 years. We did good recordings, cool work, and it was quite. We had a good job.
Yeah, that's a man.
That's how it started with Amon Düül.
Yeah.
And so this also, was so I had a success with Wolf City before I had it Carnival in Babylon and a lot of live gigs and so. And then the beginning, as I told you, with Samiti, there was this band Gila. Gila, maybe Christian know that. Gila, they did Bury My Heart and Wounded Knee for Warner Brothers. And Connie, this man, the leader, the guitar and singer of the band, he remembers me 73 in springtime. He remembers me, and he said if I enjoy his work on his solo, Gila, on his record called Bury My Heart and Wounded Knee. And in those days, Connie was close to Florian Fricke. They did Agere, they did Rosiana Mantra. So he was a guitar player for Popol Vuh. And it was really so beautiful. And so we was in the studio, maybe Christian heard about this guy. Dieter Dirks, many famous bands had been recorded there, like Scorpions, yeah. So it was recorded at Dieter Dirks' studio. And also for this work, Florian Fricke helped Connie with the compositions, with the arrangements, and he played the piano. So this was the real first time Florian and me played together.
Wow.
For the work. And after I said very short, because it was like that. So it not need really not a lot, but it has really, he was impressed by my kind of doing the music, of this energy, of his talents. And he said, okay, Danny, would you enjoy to do my work, or, to do my work for Popol Vuh? And the first production we did was Seligpreisung. We put that down in a church, with the recordings. Also, Dieter Dirks was one of the first who did live recordings in those days. So this is how I started when the thing was Popol Vuh, and also, so it was really, in those years, it was so crazy because I never said bye to anybody. So I had really 3 bands, and 1 year I had 3 bands to enjoy.
Good for you, man. Gila, Amon Düül, Popol Vuh.
Popol Vuh and Amon Düül.
Yeah, wow, man, good for you.
That was nice time, nice days. And I have to tell you, because it's important, I'm old enough. By the way, on Saturday 1 week ago, I get 68. I had my birthday on the 3rd of July. Now I'm 68, So now I can talk about that. I'm not the only one who had the experience and was experimental with inspiration, I would not say like drugs, because drugs is a stupid word. It was material, it was whatever it was. I had also, years later, I had worked with a lot of things like that. And, but those days, so, from 70 to 75, 76, I was always not smoking that much as the other did, not putting acid like the other did.
No.
You got frozen.
And then not putting in alcohol. It's really Christian, you can imagine. And you know people, 80% of these, those days had experience with all this kind of stuff. Yes, you remember maybe. Give me one who didn't smoke, I don't know what. So, but I want to say this was really worked on. This on my talent, of my working, of my experience, and that was really. And you don't have to forget, I was a young guy, and for sure, the other was, most of the guy, was minimum 5 years older than me, 10 years older than me. And Christian, you can imagine those days, 68, 69, it was really different if you was 14 or 21 or 24. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, those kids were listening to Soft Machine. The first experience I had was when I met Robert White in London, personal. Yeah, really get close to things like that, Sure, I know about Pink Floyd and things like that, and the difference of I mean, I love Roy Harper, this guy from Amon Düül II, I've seen them in a roundhouse in 68, 69, so they really had was more educated, political, philosophy, on every basic. And so if you think about the thematic, how you say in English, the thematic, like Amon Düül was working out, Cerberus, Yeti, Tanz der Lemminge, there was real pictures, Wolf City, there was pictures, I was, of course I was good, but it took time, to understand. And Florian, that was really a different stuff. Seligpreis in those days, Christian, please, there was, maybe I put it down heavy now. It was for sure you had to, of course they had meditations and sensibility and sensibilisierung. They had this, of course, everybody in those days. But so straight like Seligpreisung to put on religious stuff. So straight like Florian did. No, it was not usual in this kind of surroundings. You put it in church, the classical thing, and this is you felt it through and through. I felt it, that Florian had a completely different background than me. Of course he listened to Miles Davis, under circumstances, I was grown up, I heard that at home, but Florian Fricke grown up with the classical stuff. He was an educated piano player who was, before he got married to Bettina von Waldhausen, who was really important for his way, for his success, for his musical way. He was a journalist. He was written for classical news parts of feuilleton. He was doing for Süddeutsche, So that was completely different circumstances, different intellectual, a completely different level. But I worked it out, I worked it out good, and he was really helpful. Florian, as you maybe, if you listen to Holy Salamus, you hear really nice work. Now in the play, I reflect my youth, and I have to say, okay, I read it with good compositions, like Letzte Tage, Letzte Nächte. This was really good work of mine, Holy Salamus, agape, really. And all this Fitzgeraldo and Werner Herzog stuff,
Yeah.
So
Fitzgeraldo, yeah, of course. Yeah.
this is agape. Yep. And it was the last really good work. I mean, he changed from 97, 98. He changed. He was more into work of how you call this in English, when you work for therapy, for music therapy, he worked on this stuff. He hated to work in this music business because he was a lot of, but it's a different thing. Yet really was cheated, and it was not an easy way for him in the last years of the century, like 95. So he changed position. So the last thing he worked and I was not with because it was at first it was much cheaper for him because when it was much cheaper for him to work with Hieronymus, because he made everything on keyboards on a synthesizer, and this is the last work he did for Popol Vuh with under the name of Popol Vuh. That was like, and to this thing what you showed me, that's a very personal thing. And please listen to this because it's really important. It's a little bit, yes, I know I give you two things in front. Me, I'm working personal on my reflection, on my musical biography. So I'm putting down really stuff which I'm growing up with. I'm a reflection of this. I'm putting a lot, you will see, you will hear. It's a reflection. So I make jazz influences, there's influences. There's a lot of things what had, what I'm growing with was, which, wie sagt man, which made me to this what I'm now, influences me. So I'm working on that biography and biography. And the Florian Fricke, they had this in his mind when he recorded that Mozart record with Bach interpretation. He did also Bach on that record. And that makes sense for me because he wanted to bring it home. Of course, he didn't know that he was dying in 2000, but he wanted to bring it home. His musical feeling. This was where he was really in his heart. And he was, and nobody knows, only Frank knows, Frank Fiedler, because he was still, and he was very close to Florian, and he's now the guy who really had all this archive and all this, he had a lot of stuff from those days. From the beginning of Popol Vuh, he was with, Affenstunde, and the last thing was a little bit. So, what I want to say, he told me, Florian told me then when he was working out the stuff, Mozart, he was feeling like a little child when he, was exercising that stuff because he has to train that. So if you listen really close, he's not playing like Horowitz or Friedrich Gulda or Brende. Of course he's not like that. But he wants to bring it home. And this is what I did. And that's why I have a lot of respect to this work, what he did, Mozart. Because it was by heart. He was with Schubert, Mozart, of course, and Bach. And of course you listen. And this is very important to know how he really personal wanted to bring it home. Off and put it down. And I had the original. Really, it's nice to listen to. Me, my 30 years ago, those days, always I had a tape recorder. I always was recording when I go to Florian, visit in private, or when we talk about So in those days, I was recording this talk with me. Why he said to me, you can really, where he said, oh, excuse me, Danny, but I can't work with you in this production or this project. And yeah, no, I was not sad, and I even was not surprised. It feels strange. So, because for sure, 10 years from 74 until 84, we had really intensive and really good work. Florian and me put on a lot of work. Yeah, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, man, for all the long explanation and for all the insight, man. We appreciate that you spent the time with us and telling all the good story that you will not hear anybody else anywhere else. Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead with your question.
Well, Danny, it's an honor. Hi, hello from Chile.
Hi. I'm close to the Oktoberfest here, from the place. Yeah, yeah, I'm quite close. Well, how's the weather?
It's kind of cold now. It's winter, but it's fine. We have some sun today, but it's nice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, for winter time.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. So.
Oh, you got Barry in Wounded Knee.
Yeah, I love that. I love that one. Poof. I love it.
Did you know that I played the first time bass on the recording?
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I in fact, Daniel, I was going to show you this. I found this letter to Popol Vuh in one of my records yesterday.
Okay.
I sent a letter to the band in 1981. I don't know if you ever got it, but it was after I went to the Werner Herzog Film Festival at the Goethe Institute here, and I fell in love with the music of several films. And in fact, I had a question for you about Gila, I guess is the pronunciation. Gila, it's a river. I'm a big fan of that album, and I was going to ask you, in the late Conrad Weit's project, Gila, especially on Bury My Heart and Wounded Knee, you were even concerned with racial and social problems for some songs like The Buffalo Are Coming and Young Coyote. I wanted to ask you what happened with Gila, because it was a very you can sense like a cosmic awareness. It's so different from the first Gila album, which is much more psychedelic, much more Pink Floyd. So Connie changed the direction of the band in Wounded Knee.
I tell you. Mm-hmm. So because I started a Periphere, I just touched it before when I told you the work of Connie after the pause with Gila, and he changed from Gila to Popol Vuh for the first work, Agir Song Gottes. The truth is, Connie was a good friend of Gert Augustin. By the way, he was a producer, and he helped a lot of Billy. Now I have to tell us, because he died some months ago. Gert was really responsible for many, and he made a lot of good influences for the success for Amon Düül, Popol Vuh, Gila, and a lot of people who had a contract or had their music with the first with Liberty. After this is changed to United Artists, and he was one of had a good big position there. I don't know why he had a big position, so he was responsible for next time many bands and influences, and really he was really helpful in those days, because as Christian, you have to know, it was not that easy, for a musician to have a contract, to have the money to produce some very simple things, and we that, as you know, because it changed a lot. Today you can on a computer, you can produce everything if you want. Not everything, but you know what I mean. So it changed. The communication changed. So in those days, Connie was a really live band where he played guitars, as you know, transcendental, you know, like cosmic things. He was also with Kaiser. He also worked with Kaiser, you know, who worked with Florian also. Popol Vuh for the first time on Seligpreisung. And this guy had his cosmic careers. And so he was in contact. He was in contact with Augustine. And over this, Florian met Connie over this connection. And so somehow they get together. And after Florian finished this work with computer, with the Moog synthesizer, you know, with this electronic stuff, the way he started with Holger, you know, with Frank and him, you know, the first Affenstunde, and the other guy, what is the other? Gartenfahrhaus. Those, when he changed Florian, changed again to make music. In this case, what do you mean? To play it, you know, to make compositions, you know, to give like the fantastic oboist Popolisco from the Philharmonica. That's kind of doing, or Chong Yung, the singer. This was a composition thing where Connie get into another kind of level of doing composition, or if you want to work out different thematic, you know. So how it started is the fact Florian have read this book, Grab das Herz an der Biegung des Flusses, Bury my heart and wounded knee. Florian read it, and he was the guy who said to him, "Hey Connie, what do you think about to work that house musical?" And as you remember those days, it was really not only because of Marlon Brando, it was really something, and it was in the media culture. You know, it was in TVs and you know, in newspapers. So it had a reason, you know, in the social reflection, the Indians, the whole surrounding with it. And so he picked it up, Connie, and worked hard at this competition with a lot of help of Florian. As I told you before, he was a guy who arranged it, helped him with the melodies, with the piano and Barman Wundene. And Connie was working also as you hear, the voices and comprimiert, you know, got not too much words, as you know. As here, the same as Florian was using this thing. He was not making really songs lines. He putting down some lines, you know, and work it out more musical. You know what I mean? This is compared like Seligpreisung. There are not a lot of words. They're just that 10 Gebote oder wie du willst. It was the 10 Commandments. That was what he really works out somehow. And the same did Connie with Bury My Heart as Wounded Knee, as you said. The buffaloes are coming. So it's more to the picture. You know, it's more to the picture, musical, than it's to the lyrical thing, you know. And so, as I said, Florian gave him a lot of help to this first production. He made with the new, you know, with the new musicians. So it was Sabine. In those days, it was his girlfriend. She was singing. It was Florian, and it was me, you know, and Connie, of course. So we did Barman in DJ Dirk's studio. Yeah. And the political thing was that, for example, we had a quite famous German culture program, and so it was in this aspect, and so it was a reflection, and we put it down, you know, in TV, and But we never put it down live. Never. No. And as you know, just to be, just to link to Florian and me or the band, we only really had 3 or 4 really concerts. I mean, can you imagine? That's completely different. So, and by the way, my work, of course, I love to work with Amon Düül, and I was trained live and in studio and everything. But my biggest experience, I started as a composer, as a guitar player, as recording man, musician. I started with Florian. Yeah. That was first time I really played guitar and put the arrangements, as you hear it, No. So it was really what I want to say. We did a lot of work in the studio. A lot of musical work was more in the studio than in live program. It was a thing, and I still love it. Yeah, I love to work in studio.
Danny, I want to thank you for the. How did Dieter Dirks? He's a very influential engineer. Did he influence the development or the sound approach of Gila or Popol Vuh in any way?
Yeah, I know, especially Gila. There's no doubt, because you have to know Dieter Dirks. In those days, first he was really into the music, whatever it was, and also Klaus Deuninger was recording there. Passport. Yeah. So, Scorpion, then I don't know, and he always get in his whole creativity. Dieter Dirks really give his emotion and his spirit to all he worked with, and not only spirit, he had machines and he had technique things. What was not very usual, you say, Christian, because you have to know, those days, what was really normal for American, for example, English productions, or American, today, you think what you're talking about. Those days was really important, because the engineers, they was used to record never over the level, never overread. But we needed this comprimiert, the compressor, the comprimiert, the tight sound. We wanted to have that in some, especially Gila or Amon Düül, and Dieter Dirks was one of the first who knows how to handle that sound. You understand what I mean, Christian? It's different. I can give you so many examples where you listen really from one guitar and it sounds really so tight and so, direct and intense. It wasn't unusual to put, with normally recording things in Germany, not only in Germany, Switzerland, other thing, or Austria, anyway, this is a specially thing, Hendrix, you can't imagine, for example, it's impossible to listen to, for example, Electric Leyland without a compressor. Never. Eddie Kramer knows exactly, both. Listen to Crosstown Traffic. Wow! When you just, it's a piano. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It sounds like a band, that's compressor. So that was Dieter Dirks, one of the good one I remember with him. I really liked it. And he helped me a lot with the sound. There's no doubt. Still, really, he was helpful.
There's another stage of Popol Vuh where you work with an old friend of Florian Fricke, Klaus Schulze, when he was ahead of the innovative communication. and then you made a Sei still wie ich bin, sorry for my German. How did he influence the band? Because in those days, he was director of the label, yes?
Yep. So I give you, I mean, there's a personal aspect of mine. Now I can talk about that, and I don't care. Klaus, by the way, he's a Berliner like me. We're both from Berlin. I met him before. I know before Popol Vuh or something like that. I met him once in Berlin because my family is still was living there. We have a house there, and so I was in those days, beginning of 70. I was visiting him. So he was in those days with Tangerine Dream, and he had it with the label Cosmic Couriers. So what happened? Cosmic Couriers was, I think, the first touch where he met Klaus Scholz, Peter Kaiser, professional. And Klaus Scholz, I can't give you all the stories, but one is funny, two are funny. So Klaus Scholz had these really possibilities. He started as a drummer with Tangerine Dream. So he had a real possibility to change into electronics. And as you know, he had a real success. So he built up his own label and everything. But before, this guy was influenced and listened, of course, to because I told you before how difficult it was in the beginning end of the 60s, the beginning of the, for musician, just as for every musician, even in the beginning of Keith was just telling that why they're getting Bill Wyman, because he had the amp, he had the bass amp, so things like that. It's just exactly happened in Germany. So imagine, Christian, that's a funny story. So, as I say, I have to say it like that because it's the truth. Florian Fricke was married to Tina von Waldhausen. Von Waldhausen, it's something, and so it was. So they had social reflection, they had a good social, level, and that's reflected on also this work. Why? I tell you. Her family had a big house in the farm outside Miesbach, close to Tegernsee. Very nice view, And the neighborhood, and now it's getting funny because it's really neighborhood. There was Eberhard Schöner. Eberhard Schöner. Remember Eberhard Schöner? The guy who made Rock Meets Classic, who worked with, he came also from the classic stuff like Florian. They had been neighbors. Now listen. And they have not only that, Eberhard Schöner also married a rich woman, and Florian also married a rich woman. Why I'm telling you this? Do you know how expensive those days was a Moog synthesizer? Moog synthesizer, if you got that money for that, you can do a whole production those days for a whole band. 100,000 D-marks. Wow. So this is not pocket money. Yeah. So, and now the story. Florian was listening, I told you, he wasn't very close to Eberhard. So he was listening to his sound. It came from the neighborhood. And then he find out Eberhard Schöner bought from London a Moog synthesizer. And then he said to Bettina, "Oh, I need that also." So Bettina bought him that, no lie, bought him that Moog synthesizer. So that was the reason, because he get started with this. Of course, he had knowing about Stockhausen and that all. Of course, Fred knows everything about that. The Schoenberg and all this modern stuff and everything. He knows about electronic, Cage, everything. He knows this. Of course he knows it. Me, I even couldn't afford a drum set. I played on my congas, I started with congas. And then when it gets to the band actually bought me a drum set, So you see the difference. If you had the chance to afford things like that, it was really helpful. So that's a funny story about how Florian started to work with the Moog synthesizer. And now, after years, it was, I think, 79 or so, that when the first thing it was, I think, Agape. There's a part of this which we recorded in the north of Germany. This is where he got the studio, Klaus Schulze. And do you know what Klaus Schulze did? Because Florian said, no, I don't want to work with that. Yes, I told you. 74, 70, 70, 71, 70. He finished work with synthesizer. He started to make music. So, did you know who bought his Moog synthesizer? Because he could afford it. Klaus Schulze. And maybe you see the pictures on the record, on vinyl. You see Klaus Schulze, some pictures. You see him with a Moog synthesizer of Florian Fricke. This is one he bought, It's a funny story, isn't it, Christian?
Yeah.
So funny, I love things like that.
Danny,
excuse me, me, because he had a really big story, and I got studio, and he had really video, and it was those days when they started really to work multimedia, and visual, musical, and so, and he really was into that, and he could afford it. I'll show it. So, and me, I was just dreaming really personal. I was also doing my private stuff, and I wanted to, because I had no problem with Klaus, Florian never liked it. Never. When I start, to change his production with private thing, he always went angry. And it was hard time because he didn't like it at all when I get too personal to Klaus Schulze. So we never worked it out. Never. So now we changed anyway. Change anyway for Klaus Schulze, No, but this is a story. So I would like to have worked out there on the studio, really, but I had no chance, So we did Agape, and Sei still wie ich bin. He put something, and hey, by the way, on the picture, this little girl, this is a daughter of Florian and Bettina. It's Hannah. Yeah.
Look at that. Now, Danny, I wanted to ask you about what was it like to work and write music with Florian Fricke? To many, he seems to have led a very spiritual life, which is music reflects, of course. Unlike other more politically oriented and minded artists and bands of the era in Munich, there's so very little about Florian Fricke. Maybe in your book, in your biography, the one you're writing, you're going to tell some things, but there's very little that people know. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Also, Christian, it's a long, would you get up, so but I give you a little impressions of that. So, with my words, Frank Fiedler would tell you completely different, because he knows this. The political thing, the really political mind, a little bit started, but compared to intellectual artist kind of reflection, art reflection, this was duality between Holger Trulzsch and Florian Fricke. This is what they both. So one side you never have been helpful. On the other side, it was not so like, for example, me and Florian. Sometimes we were like a married couple. No lie. Really, for some years, really. And it was never like that to Holger. But this is important because they worked really on the theme and worked on this. And of course, like what it means, Affenstunde, that's an archaic, that's a really, beginning thing. That's a different. It's like a Greek philosophy. You got a lot of Greek treaty reflections, you know, in the beginning. You know, this is what they did a lot, and more, you know, when if you want the folkloristic, you know, the archaic, the basic. This was the beginning of their how they did and how they put together on one side the intellectual, the development of society, high level technique, and then the like Affenstunde. Affenstunde means the beginning, you know, ape, the hours of ape. That's, I don't know the translation, but this is what it means. Affenstunde, the hour of apes. So in the very beginning, you know, this is what they put out. And this changed immediately what you realized, very concrete, the spiritual thing. And this is a personal thing, I tell you, Norwegian. We have to think about it if we put it, because it's very personal. He never talked about that, and I have to respect it. In those years, in the end of the 60s, many people started go to the East, Far East, man, like they got, you know, like masters, you know, if you want masters, cool. So, and Florian had an influence, there's no doubt. He showed me once a picture, and there was a man, a philosophy man from Switzerland. And there have been, this guy had been very close to Bettina and Florian. And I think this guy had a huge influence that he changed concrete to one of them said, Oceana Mantra. You know, Oceana Mantra.
Yeah.
So he tried, and then he was really with Seligpreisung. And I mean, this is, you know, like he has church bell rings, you know. So this was true. And me, I had from the fusion. I mean, I had a good instinct, good pureness of the understanding, the meeting, die Begegnung, the touch of that spirit. He believed in me and I believed in him. And it was not, you can say sometimes, but it is a different thing. Sometimes it was a really heavy load for me. You know, it was not easy. You know, you don't play it like, I should have been known with a girl like you. You know, that's really different. Wow, you know. So it makes sometimes it was really heavy for me. Personal. I get really sick sometimes. Psychological, psychosis, you know. It was heavy. You know. Strong man. Yeah. He was a really strong man and he could change really your mind, you know, sometimes. You know, I know many people who don't want it too close this kind of personality, this kind of influence. You know, it was too, you know, it was too much. Like, you know, for example, when we had one sentence was really important. When we start, for example, to work, he always said, of course I had to play my personality on guitar. You know, it was my arrangement. But one thing he said, don't put down too much person, you know. Ich, you know, the Selbstdarstellung, something, you know, like next to, you know, you know, you put, like a role, like if you play an act, he didn't want that. He wanted it in the composition and to do it for itself. Then you understand that. It's like if you really get into a composition and not to play your person, to keep the composition. That he always said, and this is like the same thing with, you know, the ideas and the spiritual thing. just to open, to get in touch with this, what's being given when you touch this. So it was also sometimes we did yoga training, but on the other side, because I can't tell it now, not that he was ambivalent or diabolisch, but we both had Dionysische Dionysos in our mind, we got that also. God of the euphoric, we had this also. There's no doubt. So it was not only the pureness that speaks, there was a lot of personal experience.
Yeah. Gotcha. And so I will go ahead with some questions, Danny. Thank you very much for all the insight. So, and for Popol Vuh at the beginning, it was more of sort of electronic music type of project, and then under Fricke, right? They soon, I think, abandoned the synthesizer and went more for organic instrumentation, if you will, and it have a lot of world music influences. So they went from kind of leaving the synthesizer to more organic instrument. Well,
that's right.
What was the main reason doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, as I'm not sure. Of course, I can tell you the production of Vajana Mantra started 69. This is what I can tell. But this is not the thing where Chancellor has changed before, because it changes in mind. As I told you, I think it was something where Bettina, she was really close to his work, and he was close to her work. She was physiotherapeutin, physical therapy, and so they worked and they worked together. They had really worked on many things. Some things he said, okay, it's my stuff. Something it's their stuff. But they had in the beginning years, there's no doubt. You see her on the first cover. You see her, Tina from around. You see her on the cover on Affenstunde or Gartenpfarrhaus. You see this beautiful. She never put down anywhere. But so it was a little bit fake, They just want to, look like a band. And she's beautiful. So anyway, I think the real change happened when he got this experience, if you want, with their master. No matter how I can tell. It's like that. Other people got Bhagwan, or the Beatles got this other guy, as you know. So they had also these experiences. They had been, by the way, they met Yoko Ono, and they met this kind of songs that had been in London in those 67, 68. So in this, atmosphere, they have been in London. Florian told me some nice stories.
Thank you very much. So, when you guys began work with Bernard Herrmann, right, and you guys were doing a lot of obviously studio work from Bernard Herrmann movies like Fitzcarraldo, Aguirre, Nosferatu.
Oh, wait, excuse me. Claudio, please excuse me.
Yep.
You have really, because it's very important for me.
Sure.
I started to work with Florian for Werner Herzog. The first production was Kaspar Hauser. This was my first production. I did as a musician.
Yep.
Popol Vuh with Florian. The other one was Connie. Connie did Agere Song Gottes. This guitar player. He did that. Yep. This was not me.
So you guys were doing a lot of studio work, right? It wasn't any need for do like live concert. Florian didn't want to do like a live concert, or it wasn't, where people were asking, we want to see you live. Everybody knew, Florian. Everybody knew you guys, and people were watching the movies, right? Because Werner Herzog is very important in Germany. but where it wasn't any need for the people to see you live, or Florian say, no, we are not a live band.
Yeah, you got two possibilities, Claudio. I mean, I got them. Of course, it's more to the picture in the music. The fact is,
yeah,
Florian, as I told you before, he was used to more. He never was with a band performing. That was not, he never went into that like a usual band. Whereas as you know, he was more this. He got that musician for this. He took that musician for that. He took the singer for this. For that he was more. For many things, he was more in this studio recordings for example, film music or live for recordings or records. He was more into that. Why? Two reasons. Yeah, and I met him. Me was okay, we could, we played for some concerts. So I know how to play with him. For example, in Milano, we did a gig and there was only Florian, Renate, me, no guitar, Renate on singing, and Florian piano. It was a really raw sound, crazy, because I couldn't put it down loud on guitar, otherwise you couldn't hear. So I couldn't play the same stuff I put down in the studio live, never. So that was one hour, but we just played it. So we did it for 1.5 hours. One thing, this is the only concert I know when we played really with a band. I looked for another guitar player. I looked for a drummer, and we had really two guitar players. And that was in Vienna in Munich. And Renato was singing. That was, and I think 1,000 people, the audience. That was the only concert. And it was good. The critic was good. Next days. It was cool. But this only, and the other one, why you didn't, you won't believe it. It's just bother to work with other people, who have a rehearsal, and then the guitar player don't come, and maybe the drummer had headaches, or the new bass player, he wanted to, and it was on their side. It was just too expensive.
Yeah.
It was just too expensive. Put down this whole thing, maybe for one concert, you had to reorganize a tour or something. He was not, maybe one concert, maybe two, but not 10 or 12,
I understand, yeah.
He was not the man for the road, no.
And then what can you, if you can elaborate a couple minutes to, so the relationship between Werner Herzog, it was only between Werner Herzog and Florian Fricke?
Yeah.
Or you guys have a decision in, for example, Fitzcarraldo, whatever, right?
No,
you have an influence in the type of music will go to a movie, or was more a conversation between Werner Herzog and Florian Fricke, and you guys?
That's right, Roger. Claudio, the idea was not bad. So, at first, before Popol Vuh started, Werner Herzog was a good friend to Florian. When he started, as a young man making films like the one he did in Greek, in Creta. He did one film, and he was more close, I think, Bettina, because I don't know if she made shots for the film, but this is how they met somehow. They get together and they have been friends. Werner knows Florian before he started with a girl, or something. They met each other, and it goes toujours. When Werner started to work on film, or had something, on Schneidetisch. I don't know, you have to, when you make the film, you got a little thing where you cut the film those days, so you can see the film. Muster, you get the first thing. Then this was for example, Florian started to work with, they looked at without music. And then he started to see, this or this. He was putting down that, for example, for some films. One I know exactly, because I've got the original still, that was the Drehbuch. That was the book where you can read everything the arts are talking. Drehbuch, where, and this is where what we got before we have seen anything. He gave us the Drehbuch, so we could read all the dialogues and all the things. That was only Cobra Verde. I know this. The other side was, for example, we met us in the studio. Anna was coming, and he was listening to stuff we played and we offered to him. This was one other possibility. So one thing, he was enjoying our work in the studio. The other thing, then Florian met him. They talked about the ideas, the stuff and everything. And the other was, like I met him. I met him once. That was funny. For example, I can't tell because it belongs to me. Florian was, as I told you, when you compare private stuff with his stuff, he was not easy to take. So I would say somehow you get really jealous sometimes. So he was never, when he was with Werner, I was never that close. This was his work, and then he brought it to me or the musicians. So mostly. Once in Munich, he was looking at the pictures, in the studio for film. And I know him because it was close to my flat. And somehow I know exactly what he wants. And I was doing an idea at home. I was putting a music thing. And I went with a tape without telling Florian. I went straight to Werner and said to him, "Hey, Werner," because we know us before, of course. And I said, "Oh, Werner, I got a little piece for you. Let me listen. Listen to this." Straight, he said, "And I take it." 10 minutes later, Florian came in and see me working with. He gets a face, really, wow. It was not very friendly. But he took it. Werner took it. It's on Fitzgerald. You can listen to it, yeah. Like each other. Tomorrow.
Of course. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Keep the tension high.
Yeah.
Keep the tension high.
Sure.
Christian is the biggest Popol Vuh fan in the world, in all the galaxies, all the planet Popol Vuh. I know Popol Vuh through Christian.
Look at that.
Christian is the one that introduced
Christian, I have to tell you one good thing.
To all the Fichelscher, Gila.
Yeah, okay.
No, Ferrado, that was
There's my work also good.
Yeah, Cobra Bird, and of course, all the stuff.
Yeah, so I have to tell Christian one thing, by the way, because I told him that I'm doing my personal biography, musical. So, and maybe because he said he knows that one of the coolest ideas I did on guitar was Kleiner Krieger, or stuff like Last Days, Last Night. This is something I put down on guitar. I will reflect that. You have to tell Christian, I really play things like that. I would do it because I love the sound and these ideas, and still exist. So I keep on that work, and it's a pleasure.
Excellent.
To talk to you, Christian.
Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Again, and we'll see you next week.
Too.
We see us next week. We keep contact with writing and.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
So you got the whole thing, and you will do the best.
Thank you.